in government vaccine news, we have this weird back and forth about whose fault it is that more of the vaccine isn't being shipped out, which seems premature. I mean, we're on like day 4 of the vaccine, but they're already pointing fingers at each other. Pfizer said on Thursday that it was not having any production issues, and in fact had millions of doses sitting in a warehouse awaiting government orders on where to ship them. So they're saying, we've got the vaccine, but the government isn't telling us where they need to go. That apparently was in response to yesterday when Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar suggested at a press conference that Pfizer was having manufacturing challenges. So now they're fighting with each other. At the same time, governors and health officials in more than a dozen states have complained about getting fewer doses than they expected. Illinois, Washington, California, oh no, I live there. Georgia, Hawaii, and Nevada are getting about half the doses that they expected. But then there's an added layer on top of that where 2 anonymous Trump administration officials told the AP that doses were being held in storage on purpose, held back to ensure that people who had their first shot of the 2-dose vaccine could get the second one. Another 500,000 per the officials are being held to the side in case any unforeseen problems, which I don't even know what that means. I think the problem is that everybody has COVID and they need the vaccine. I don't know what would the unforeseen problem coming be? I don't know.
The mountain in the fog is unforeseeable, but then suddenly quite seeable and inevitable. That's like there's I don't know if people watch Veep, but there's a movie by the guy who did that called In the Loop. That is what happens. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
there is, we think people who might need it in the future might not need it, and then have it.
Well, so okay, you've confused me more, but I'm also confused because there's still one more layer to what we're talking about. So Pfizer says, hey, we're not having production issues after Alex Azar is like, it's their fault, they're not making enough of it. Pfizer's like, no, we totally got it. It's sitting here. We just don't know where to send it. So the government is saying they're slacking. Pfizer is saying the government's slacking. They need to tell us where it needs to go. Some other anonymous people in the government are saying that they're holding it in storage because they need to save it for people who need their second shot. But then why not just send it to the place and then the place has it for the first shot and for the second shot? And so they're saying that we're not doing that because the states actually think that would be harder to manage, which I don't understand how that could possibly be the case. But supposedly that's what the states are saying. But if that's the case, then why are they saying that this is why it's staying there? But Alex Azar is saying that it's their fault, they're not manufacturing enough. Like, it's bad enough if the vaccine companies and the government are talking to each other, but why is the government not talking to the government and at least getting their story straight about exactly what the problem is and whether there's a problem at all? Because Alex Azar is saying that there's a problem. Pfizer is saying, yes, there is a problem, but it's not what he's saying. And other people in the government who won't give their name are saying, there's no problem at all. It's gonna go out eventually.
The only argument that would make sense, if it would only make sense what Alex Azar is saying, if people move after they get their first dose of vaccine and are somewhere else when they need to have the second vaccine.
Maybe.
But that's a ridiculous, stupid argument. Because it is not too, because who's moving in a quarantine, especially if we're going to like frontline workers and the elderly who are told either to go to the same place to help out or freaking don't go anywhere because you're supposed to be quarantined from people.
Yeah.
That argument is ridiculous. And it is very important to reinforce that there is the only obvious thing. There is horrible miscommunication and chaos in the distribution of this vaccine. Now, there are millions of first dose vaccines in places where there need to be first dose vaccines. There is no reason that the second dose should be anywhere but where the first dose is. They are essentially telling frontline workers who are experts in the field of medicine that they are not trustworthy enough to prescribe and administer medicine according to a prescription, like essentially like a regimen. That's their job. That's what they do all the time. That's why it doesn't make any sense. Do I unequivocally trust pharmaceutical companies? No, but in this situation, it makes sense for the stuff to be where it needs to be. I hold both parties accountable for the FUBAR situation that we have right now. They need to fix it, and preferably fix it before I have to read stuff like this, which is he did it wrong. No, he did it wrong. Sorry, you have to die in the meantime.
Yeah. I hate the whole thing. Someone on Twitch was like, cue Benny Hill. Someone said John just did the who's on first, but for the government, and it's totally true. I'm not an expert, and I'll just leave the rest blank on everything. Just insert whatever you want. My guess would be, and so somebody said on YouTube that Rachel Maddow talked to someone from one of the vaccine companies that said they have millions of doses, but they haven't been told where to send it. So my first suggestion would be to the government, tell them where to send it. That would be great. My second would be send it everywhere. Just send it places. Wherever it goes, there's gonna be people who need it, I feel like. I know that that's not necessarily the most efficient way to do it, but I feel like there are doctors and nurses pretty much everywhere, and there's definitely old people everywhere. I think we just need to start getting as many people like vaccinated as possible. I would just start distributing it. Just send it to capitals, start there. I'll drive, if I have to drive to Sacramento, I'll do that. Not everybody's able to do that, but I'll do it. Yeah, the whole thing is just so frustrating. Also, I know, I understand that, but it's frustrating. The other thing is, I guess it is a good thing that this craziness is already public, because we are literally on like day 4 of the vaccine even being approved to be distributed. And already there are fingers being pointed about why it's not happening faster. And there are vaccines being administered. The COVID tracking project, which I follow, a number of states, like at least half the states, are now saying how many vaccines they've administered each day. My home state of Connecticut had administered like 1,900 yesterday or something like that, which is good to see. I think it's good that we're getting this out of the way the first week, because there's a lot that needs to be sent out, and we are just in the very beginning.
Yeah, and I'm glad there's a vaccine. That's one of those things where you just like have a moment where you say there are multiple vaccines now that have been approved by the FDA, and they are being distributed. And I'm hearing that there are millions of them that are going out right now, and that is great. And more to come. I understand the justification that if you need 2 vaccine doses, there should be an equal amount set aside as have been administered. Otherwise, you run the risk of administering a first dose and then not being able to have a second dose to make sure that those people are taken care of. I get it. I disagree with holding it back at a distribution warehouse. You're just giving more opportunities for that to be lost or messed up along the way. But I don't like hearing stuff like this. I don't like hearing stuff like this, and I also don't think it's destructive to tell people that I don't like hearing stuff like this.
Yeah. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.